Lad and Chuck are out feeding cattle together and most likely shooting the breeze about the way things used to be in Osage County back in the old days. Meanwhile, I'm putting together a great meal for them when they get up to the lodge. I've got the grits warm on the stove, and I'm gonna make a batch of apple dumplings. The magical thing about this recipe is they can pass as a side dish or a dessert. I've just peeled an apple, and I'm gonna cut it into slices. This is one of those recipes that definitely falls under the umbrella of ridiculous recipes. You will not believe what goes into it. You will also not believe how delicious these dumplings are when they come out of the oven. I've made this for fancy dinner parties and casual kids sleepovers, and it is perfectly delicious every time. I'm gonna take a slice of apple and wrap it inside a canned crescent roll. Yes, you heard me. You know what these are? You just pop them out of the can and roll them up and bake them. For this recipe, they're gonna serve as the dumplings for the apples. I wish I could be a fly on the wall of Lad's feed truck and listen to all the stories and things they're talking about. I'll tell you one of my favorite stories about Chuck. When he and Nan started dating, Nan lived so far out in the country that Chuck had to haul along 2 or 3 extra tires because he almost always got 1 or 2 flats when he went to see her. It didn't thwart him though, obviously. He liked her so much he stuck with it. I always laugh because Nan tells me she grew up wanting to travel the world and she wound up marrying a rancher from the next county. Life is kind of funny that way. Okay, now I'm gonna get the dumplings in the pan. I'm gonna move on to the sauce that's gonna get poured all over the top. I've got 2 sticks of butter in a saucepan, and I'm adding 1.5 cups of sugar. This is such a decadent recipe. And a good splash of vanilla. And then I'm gonna stir it, but I don't want the sugar to dissolve at all. I want it to be nice and grainy. So I'm going to pour this all over the top of the dumplings. You wanna see the lumpy sugar going over the top? Goodness gracious. I have made this for guests and not told them that the recipe has canned crescent rolls in it, and they seriously think they are eating some kind of fine French dessert. I'm not kidding. You've got to try them sometime. Okay, now if you're not already shocked by what's in this pan, I'm about to really shock you. I've got a can of lemon lime pop. I'm gonna pour this into the baking dish with the apple dumplings. I'll just pour it slowly so it gets all over. I'm just gonna use about 2/3 of the can. I've tried it with the whole can before, and I've tried it with half the can. Turns out I met in the middle and it was perfect. And the last thing, just for a little extra flavor, I'm gonna sprinkle on some cinnamon. It's real soupy at this stage, but in the oven, the dumplings will just absorb all that liquid, and it basically turns the lemon lime pop into a syrup. Okay, I'm gonna get this into the oven. The dumplings are gonna bake at 350 for about 40 minutes. Then I'll take them out. They actually get a little bit better after they sit for a while, so by the time Lad and Chuck get here, they're gonna be just right. Lad and my father-in-law Chuck are out feeding cattle this morning, and then they're gonna come up here to eat. So of course I have to make some of my father-in-law's very favorite foods, starting with breakfast grits. These are going to be absolutely delicious. Chuck likes grits any way he can get them. Okay, I'm just starting with some low sodium chicken broth, and I'm gonna add some butter and just turn on the heat. This is gonna be the liquid for the grits, and I'll stir until it all melts. Chuck loves grits, and I gotta say, I love Chuck. He's been ranching since pretty much the day he was born. It's basically in his DNA. He comes from a long line of ranchers, and as a cattleman through and through, he's seen a lot of changes. Lad and Tim do most of the management of the ranch now, but Chuck still helps out at big cattle workings and during shipping. He's also in charge of fixing old fence on the ranch and moving away old cake houses. The thing about Chuck is he loves telling stories about the old days, and that's part of why Lad likes hanging out with him. He just gets to hear about the way things used to be, and Lad remembers pretty much everything Chuck tells him. Okay, the broth and the butter are all heated up, so I'm gonna add the grits. I'm using stone ground grits, which are the best, really great flavor. I'm gonna add a cup to the liquid and whisk the grits into the liquid. Gosh, as soon as those grits hit the liquid, you can already see them start to expand. It's gonna take them a little bit more time to cook, so I'm gonna put the lid on and let them finish cooking, and I'm gonna get some bacon in the skillet. These grits are not just any grits. The bacon is gonna make them extra wonderful.
Well, these old cows look good.
Yeah, cows doing pretty good this year.
Boy, I remember when they first came out with these bulk feeders. My dad bought his first one in the 80s. And he said, hell, son, with this feeder, I'll be able to feed cattle till I'm 80-some years old. My grandfather, I can remember he drove an old Power Glide Chevrolet back in the early 50s. And he'd have that whole back seat of his car full of those gunny sacks.
Oh, I remember those old feed trucks he used to drive, and they were beat up.
I mean they were beat up.
You know, the guys don't usually go feeding together because they're all usually doing their own thing. So it's always a treat for Lad when he gets to feed with Chuck. Gives him a chance to get caught up. And Chuck seems to be a never-ending font of stories. They just keep coming out of his memory. Okay, the grits are just about done. So I'm gonna add some richness by pouring in some cream. And I mean, really pouring in some cream. I am not being shy with it. There are some other things I'm gonna add to the grits later to make them creamy, but this heavy cream is a pretty good start. Okay, I'm gonna put the lid back on and just let the grits cook for another 10 minutes. And the bacon is done, so I'm gonna get it out of the pan. Okay, another thing I'm gonna add to the grits is a little spice in the form of a fresh jalapeno. I'm gonna scrape out most of the seeds and membranes, otherwise it would be overwhelmingly spicy. And then I'm gonna just slice into half moons, really, really thin. Chuck and I share a love of spicy food. Usually when everybody else kind of yells uncle, he and I are still going for it. And they'll go right into the grits. And I know the grits are still cooking, but I'm gonna stir the jalapenos in so that spiciness will start getting active. Okay, lid back on. And now for the bacon. Ooh, it's hot. I'm just gonna chop it up into bits. You know what I've done with breakfast grits before is add cooked chorizo sausage. My gosh, that is delicious. I didn't happen to have any in my fridge today, or I might have chosen that. It is yummy. All right, I'm gonna stir this in. Goodness gracious, it looks delicious already. But wait till you see how I'm gonna finish these up.
I said, Dad, well, what about what y'all do for entertainment? He said, well, there was a lot of goat ropings every weekend. He said, son, you had to be pretty damn good to rope a goat. I bought some goats when I was a kid up there and had them up to Kiger.
Does that help you roping?
Yeah, that's where I learned how to fix fence too, because every time I'd let the goats out, they'd get out the hole somewhere in the fence and I'd have to go fix it. I'd spend more time fixing the holes than I did roping them.
So that helps you two things, your fence fixing skills and your roping, huh?
Yeah.
I'm gonna add all of this grated sharp cheddar to the grits. That is a lot. Actually, I might stop there. I've never done that before. I'm using mascarpone cheese. Sometimes I add softened cream cheese and it does the trick too, but I really love the flavor of mascarpone. It's so mild, really, really creamy. These grits look absolutely amazing. I'm gonna turn off the heat, put the lid on,